welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on October the 9th, 2018. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, the spooky version of...
Caffeine Rage!
On today's show, we're going to have a little bit of a special giveaway this time. We will also be discussing the games we played this past week. A BAFTA lecturer discusses why making games should be easier. After months of asking for region lock, PUBG players are mad about region locks. We're going to be discussing the continuing adventures at Telltale Studios, or what's left of it. CD Projekt Red has got some creative rights issues going on. We'll have our weekly community corner with a listener question this week, and our Steam Discovery queue. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage.
Hello.
How you doing?
Well, doing better this week because we're actually recording on a Tuesday.
Indeed. So far, nothing terrible has happened.
Jinx.
I don't have any wood to knock on. All of this stuff is like particle board, and this might be real wood.
Well, what? Your skull isn't?
I should just knock on my penis. And goodbye to our lovely sponsor who sponsored a giveaway. If they actually listen to the show.
If so, we're sorry.
Indeed. I'm just going to go straight from penis to talking about this. So on our last episode during the Discovery queue, I found a little game called 1904, a interesting looking little hacking game. Talked about it for a few minutes. Said I looked interested in it. I was going to keep my eye on it. And we moved on. And in our inbox this week, we got an email from the devs that thanked us for mentioning the game on the show and gave us some keys to give away to some audience members and also some keys for us so that we can play the game. So we have 3 keys to give to the audience. And I've already forgotten what you said they should do to get the keys.
I decided, this was my first thought on how we should distribute them. And my thought was quotes from hacker movies. Email them or tweet them to us. And it won't be, our favorite one or, get a quote from one of our favorite movies, even though if you do hit one of mine, you do get some bonus points. It doesn't help your odds any, but, I will feel better about you. And we'll run it for 2 weeks instead of just one, just to give it a little bit of extra time. And we'll do it, talk about this once again next week to be able to remind anyone that we randomly picked up because, the podcast sometimes picks up new people, sometimes it drops people, such as the way of the podcaster, right?
Indeed.
But
Indeed.
To enter, once again, just send your favorite quote from a hacker movie, or will we include Cyberpunk in that in general? Because that usually has a lot of hacking or hacking subplots.
I allow Cyberpunk.
Yeah, and for fun, also include what the movie is from, and send that to vglpodcast@gmail.com, or just tweet it to VGLpodcast. It'll be into the same pool of the 3 keys. I don't think we should segregate those and do one from Twitter or not.
No.
And it's just 1 entry per person.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to send us hacker movie quotes all day long, you can, but it still only gets you 1 entry into the giveaway, which we will hold at 2 weeks from today.
Yeah,
right? That'll be 1 episode, and then the next one. Yeah,
let's call it 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or Freedom Time, depending on if you're on a Discord or not. Tuesday, October 23rd.
Right. So that'll be right before we go to record. We'll check the messages and then...
random.org.
Yep. So, we did it, guys. We hit the big time. We got some keys. Officially received some keys to give away to listeners of the show.
Yeah,
Pack it up. We're going home.
And if the dev of the game is still listening after hearing you talk about your penis, I'd love to know how you found us, really, because it was a very small mention. Not to say that, we're not appreciative of it, but still, it was kind of random.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how they found it, because I don't put the tags from Discovery Queue
I don't
in
either.
the episode because I haven't played the games. So either the devs do listen, in which case, hi guys.
Or
Also,
the
bye
YouTube
guys, because I
algor-
talked about my penis.
If they listened for any amount of time, they would hear a lot about your penis.
That's true. If they've been listeners of the show for a little while, they know. They know.
I mean, your theme song isn't it lovely to have a penis?
Yes. Also, sometimes the internet is for porn. You know, depending on my mood.
Or both. Just one in one ear, one in the other.
Yeah. Going at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So we will we'll announce that again next week. Probably after the episode goes live, posted on Discord. Just in case. I mean, most of the people on the Discord listen to the podcast
We hope.
pretty soon after it releases. But, just a little reminder. I think
a very welcome surprise.
Indeed. So, speaking of games, no more giveaways, but we do have a few games to talk about this week.
It was a very, very light week for me, and I'm seeing my connection to Discord being a little wonky, which, boy, I hope that doesn't bode poorly for the rest of this.
You sound okay, so...
Yeah, it went orange, not red.
Okay.
I didn't play many games because I was highly agitated this weekend and I was not in the mood. Because guess who had more connection issues?
That guy right there. The one with the floppy disk on his picture.
Well, it's a hard disk one and I'm talking to you.
Oh, nice. That was excellent. I approve. I'm just gonna 2 thumbs up plus my penis.
My connection completely died Saturday night. I mean, completely. It was out for a good chunk of the evening into overnight. Which, I typically do my kind of random playing on the weekend anyway. And I was just agitated. I was not in the mood. I called it an early night. Sunday rolls around. Internet's back up. Looking good. Great. For a bit. Then it went down again for pretty much the rest of the day. After, I would say, early afternoon, it started getting more and more sluggish. Now, mind you, I have a gig package. So whenever I start seeing things like Twitch buffering, that's a bad sign, right?
Yeah, something's wrong.
Yeah, either whoever's streaming has connection issues or I'm having connection issues. And I did a quick speed test and I was well under an eighth of my max download. And it just kept going down further and further and further and further until finally I hit rock bottom and I ended up I never technically lost my connection. But when you're running dial-up speeds in the modern web, it may as well be down.
Yeah.
I got so agitated, I started yelling at Sunlink support on Twitter. I mean, that should tell you something, right? This was the third day in under a week. This was the third day in under a work week, and under 5 days. And turns out their rule for bill adjustment is it has to be 24 hours period. It's not multiple times adding up to 24 hours in a short period of time. Which kind of sucks for me, but fine. So I was so agitated, I really didn't play anything outside of what I was originally planning on doing a Sunday sampler for, but wasn't going to be able to do so because I was having program problems with it. Just once again, my computer throwing a fit on certain... I'm assuming this was a Unity title. I didn't get a chance to really confirm that. But that tends to be what it is. It's something to do with Unity, and I haven't figured out what. But I did play a little bit of Nimbatus, the space drone constructor. No, that's just not me trying to preface it. That's the subtitle of the game.
Yeah.
And it reminds me a lot of Kerbal in both the good or bad ways. For those who've never heard of the game, which honestly can't blame you there, it is, I would call it a roguelite spaceship construction game where you go into a procedurally generated universe, and it's kind of a roguelite sandbox game where you go do missions, mine and dig down into random planets, do whatever it is that you're supposed to do there, which at least on the few missions that I did seemed to be essentially the same thing, only with a different skin on it. But granted, that is also the extreme early game, so that could be a little unfair on my assumption on that. But where it also reminded me of Kerbal is it also had some of the growing pains that Kerbal did, particularly on ship construction. Everything is connected to a central core, and this is very much the Kerbal style, where you're, well, not really snapping pieces together in this case, but the same general idea, where you have essentially a bin of parts that you snap together to make your ship. Well, on this, all the pieces are essentially on rods connected to a secondary piece, much like how Kerbal would be if you used the tools in the game to essentially break the physical or the visual bonds, I should say, of a particular piece. But they don't have any sort of joint reinforcement. So if you're not very careful on your building, you could actually get the ship to jitter as it has too many pieces kind of latched onto one central piece. You remember how Kerbal would have, the spaghetti rockets?
Yeah, they would wobble all over the place till they blew up.
Exactly that. Which is what I mean by some of Kerbal's growing pains. Granted, you can get around that by having the central node branch out into other heavier parts and use those as a secondary node to latch onto, which also makes it so that your ship is also more modular and can be blown up a little bit easier. So it's a kind of a trade-off system there. It's interesting, and it reminds me a lot of Gimbal actually as well. And for those who've never played Gimbal, well, I don't blame you, because it was a pretty small multiplayer-focused shipbuilding game where you snap together parts and build a ship to essentially go deathmatch. A very fun game. Shame it didn't really get a lot of press and a lot of traction on the multiplayer scene. And pretty much a waste to pick it up now, just because, no single player in the multiplayer. What there is, it's the few diehards. Not fun.
Right.
But everything is built around individual bonding of keys and individual parts. So in order to set up your movement, you're actually assigning all the different thrusters to different key bonds, and also the positioning of your center of mass matters a great deal on your mobility, because if you set up a ship that is built around being very agile and you don't set up your center of mass correctly, you're going to be in a bad time. And it also makes it so you have to try to counterbalance whenever you're building asymmetrically. So it actually has a pretty deep building system in it already for being so early in its early access. Something that's a little bit interesting on it is its weapon system and its research system. There is no set weapons in this game. Instead, all the weapons are user defined. And that is done through the research tree, which is solely based around the weapon system, at least at time of recording. And in order to go further into the research tree, you have to mine particular resources, which require specialized tanks on your spaceship, which are very heavy. And if they blow up, you lose that resource, and you have to ferry it back and forth while completing a mission. So it adds a secondary objective and also a little bit of risk reward. And it's split between 3, potentially 4 different resources. Each of them have specialized tanks. So, you're either going for a very particular resource with a very particular ship, or you're going back and forth very often with a more generalized ship. It adds a lot to the risk reward for just doing secondary things while also trying to blow up snake eggs, for example, or trying to scan things or that sort of thing. Well, the research, it unlocks different perks for weapons. And all the weapons have different classes. I think there's about a half a dozen of them. There's blasters, which are pretty much your pew-pew lasers. Full-on just laser beams, think board cutter beams. Long lasers, which are weaker but have a longer range, hence the name. Rockets, grenades, and flamethrowers. And there may be another one that I'm forgetting. And once you set the primary class, how the weapon actually performs is based on 3 traits that you slot in based on what you've unlocked in the research tree. And different weapon classes use different branches of this centralized tree. So you're in this central node and you branch outwards. And different weapons use different branches. And some of them are severe downgrades to try to make a weapon more specialized. Perhaps you want it to be purely a digging weapon to allow you to dig down further. So you could, on a high tier thing, completely drop the damage to potentially do something else with that weapon. It's an interesting swapping mechanic. I've seen this a couple of times, but usually those games are more multiplayer focused. So having it in a single player game actually is a little bit refreshing because you're not going to be as focused on trying to min-max and just do what you want with it, which allows for a lot more openness with the system, which I approve of. It reminds me a bit also of a loadout system where, the weapons are all customized. That sort of thing, only single player. But I didn't play enough of it to really be able to get into the mission structure or, the full game cycle because my system just hated the game's particle system, and certain weapons threw out a lot of particles, and they were kind of I wouldn't say a requirement. I wouldn't go that far to say that certain missions require you to run certain weapons, but whenever you're swarmed with very small but fragile enemies, having something like a flamethrower, for example, makes it a lot easier than trying to hit them all with a laser. And I will say that the weapons don't have self-collision, which is nice. So you could shoot through your ship, which allows for a little bit more protection on your weaponry. There also appear to be, different environments that will appear every so often. There was heaters and coolers to try to counteract atmospheric effects, and there was also a lot of logic parts which would allow for smart building of ships. As a matter of fact, part of the tutorial is built around teaching you how to use particular logic gates to be able to automate at least certain functions of the ship, which is very interesting. I didn't get to dive too far into that though, so I can't really say how far it goes or how deep the rabbit hole goes on that. But I have seen people talk about carrying around essentially a mini turret and dropping it behind them while they're trying to do things on particular missions. And just having its logic gates and its power supply run off of a secondary thing and build essentially just a mobile weapons platform, which is really neat, huh?
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I like the sound of this. I wanted to play it this week. I didn't get a chance, but maybe I will.
Yeah, I wish I was able to play it a bit more. I think you would dig it. Yeah. See what I did there?
Yeah.
I do hope that as you go further into the game, it's not so much the same mission over and over again with the same skin. Grant only really got to take a look at 3 or 4 in the opening system. And it is a sandbox RPG, so there is a lot of just going and doing things. It did appear that there's a gating system where as you do missions, you essentially get unlock points for gates to go to different systems. So if you get a bad roll on your initial system, assuming that it's fully procedural, then you may have a harder time than you may otherwise expect. It's something that has to be very carefully balanced, so I'm not sure if that's quite in play or not, or if they have a little bit more hands-on with the generation of the opening system or two, which I would hope so, but you never know, right?
Yeah.
I guess the main thing I would say is I wish that there were struts in the game to be able to reinforce the ship. And also just, more parts, because there's only a handful of batteries to power the ship. All your weapons use a certain amount of power. Some weapons, of course, use more than others, and those tend to be more for short burst fire. Energy shields use a lot of power. Batteries are also essentially, it's a combination battery generator. So adding more batteries or adding bigger batteries also increases your battery or your power generation to a degree. But there's also a capacitor, which doesn't have a power generation feature, but it essentially is, it's a capacitor. I mean, it stores power to be able to use later, and it has a lot higher power density. So it's there's a lot of interesting trade-offs already in the game, and as it goes through early access, I think it's going to be very interesting. I just wish I was able to play it more. And since I was having connection issues, I couldn't do proper searches to try to figure out if there was anything I could do to fix it. But I didn't see anybody complaining about crashing, so it's probably just a quirk of my system, which is irritating. But yeah. Any questions?
No, I think I'm gonna excuse me, I think I'm gonna reserve most of that for when I get to play it, and then maybe chat back and forth with you about how I feel about some of the systems. I mean, it sounds awesome. As long as I don't have the same technical issues you do.
Yeah, it's pretty much free-form building on your thing. And I will say that the tutorial isn't the greatest of explaining certain aspects of the game. Like, as far as I could recall, it never really highlighted exactly how to, for example, change the node that you're connecting to. So by default, all the parts want to connect to the central node of the ship. Essentially, the computer core or whatever you want to call it. And everything branches out like a snowflake almost,
Yeah.
Well, if you're dragging a part on and then you mouse over another part while still holding the part, it'll change its focus from the central node to that part so that you can branch off from that. And they talk about making big enough ships to do certain things, but they never really highlight the how or the why, until, you start having a ship go all spaghetti on you. I should say limp spaghetti, not the, uncooked hard noodle. So they could probably work on the tutorials a bit, or, it just could have been me being dense, which is always a high possibility, actually.
Yeah. Perhaps.
Oh, and a smartass in Discord.
Oh. All right.
Yeah.
Is that... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I would say that it's very customizable, and if you're one that doesn't enjoy building ships or toying around with things, it's very much a tinkering game. And the trailer on the Steam store page very much highlights this. I would say that it does a very good job of showing exactly what the game is. You come up to, against a problem, and you have to figure out a way around it. And then you come up against another problem, and you have to figure out a way around it. And sometimes those two are mutually exclusive, sometimes they're not. So it's a very niche title, but if you fall into that niche, at least from what I played, it looks like it's a good starter, or it's off to a very good start, I should say.
Excellent. Makes me happy to hear you talk mostly positively about it, because that means it's probably a good game. You tend to only talk nice about games that are good. Like, I'll talk nice about games that are shit. Like, I'll acknowledge that they're shit, but I'll be like, my weird sensibilities let me enjoy this. But you never talk nice about anything unless it's actually good or redeemable. So that...
it's almost like I'm a hard critic or something.
Yeah, I know. That warms my heart just a little
I
bit.
mean, the worst thing I had to say about it was that it could use struts, and the tutorials are not quite up to spec, but it's an early access title, so I could kind of forgive that. Then I also had technical issues, but I think that's more limited to my computer not liking certain Unity builds, and I can't figure out why.
Yeah. Well, cool. Is it my turn?
Yeah, I do believe so.
Excellent. So, I didn't play anything new this week. I had some stuff happen last week and over the weekend that prevented me from doing so. You know what's going on, Rage, and it's something I wouldn't mind talking about, but out of respect for the other people in this situation, I'm not gonna say anything other than it took up quite a bit of my time over the weekend and the tail end of last week. So
yeah,
I didn't play.
Yeah, you were counseling me because of my sound link issues.
Yeah, that's it. That's what we'll go with. So I didn't really get to play anything new either. The newest update or expansion or DLC or whatever you want to call it for American Truck released, though, the Oregon expansion, which adds the state of Oregon to the game. So I went ahead and picked that up. You could get it in a combo with like some new trailer skins or truck skins or something. And essentially, you got the skin, air quotes, for free. So I went ahead and picked that up. It was like $12 for the two of them. And I really, really am enjoying Oregon. It's one of those things that it's like that we talked about like last week, how that this game is very much one thing, but subtle changes can make a whole world of difference to the gameplay. So Oregon, number one, is a state that gets a lot of rain in the United States. If you don't live here, you might not know that, but it rains a lot in Oregon. And I've played this game. I've played this game for about 50 hours total, 40 to 50 hours. I've seen rain maybe 4 times in the game until the Oregon expansion. In the other states, so Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, and California, 4 or 5 times in total in all that time. I've seen rain like every other day in the state of Oregon. And I just left there on a long haul delivery to Nevada. And once I got a little ways out of the state, back towards the desert, no more rain. And it hasn't rained, and I've not gotten back up there yet. So I assume that they have made some changes to make the weather a little bit closer to real life, and have got a lot of rain. And that changes the way that I feel while playing the game. I'm not sure that rain actually does anything to really affect your handling or performance. If it does, it's because there's no things like rain collection on the road or whatever. You don't have to worry about losing traction or hydroplaning. So it's mostly just attacks on my graphics card, processor, and patience, because there's only 2 wiper blade settings, very slow and very fast. And neither of those usually fit the bill for what I want. But it's still nice aesthetically. They do an excellent job with like reflections and things. And if you've got the graphics settings maxed out, you can see the little sort of like dovetails or rooster tails, like whenever you're driving quickly, like how it's spraying water off the back of tires. Just like those little things that you wouldn't normally notice, except it's like, oh wow, they do have like the simulator, portion of things down. And it's just like a nice little touch to be driving along and seeing like the water spraying out. I don't know, it just adds to the aesthetic. Another thing that's different is that Oregon has a lot of rural roads and very tiny towns dotted around with just like gas stations and places to sleep and stuff like that. And you just drive through, but it's a nice touch. It makes it feel much less developed, much more rural, which the state is. I mean, it has its collection of cities for sure. Portland is huge, both in game and real life. But there's a lot of, back roads and sort of backwater towns in Oregon. It feels a lot like Tennessee, honestly, with rolling hills and lots of back roads, lots of tiny 2-lane roads with speed limits that are like 45 miles an hour.
And a cop hiding right behind that speed limit sign.
Yeah. God, don't I know it. But anyways, there's also a lot of dirt roads because the logging industry is big in Oregon, as it is in Tennessee. So there's logging trucks everywhere now. And there are logging sites you can go to. One of the achievements is tied to delivering logs from each of the logging sites to the various lumber yards where that they, cut it up into rough cut lumber and stuff like that to be shipped out to furniture manufacturers and yada yada. But anyways, most of these sites are several miles down a dirt road. And while it doesn't simulate dirt roads and off-roading like Spin Tires does, you can certainly tell a difference between driving on a paved road and driving on a dirt or gravel road. And it's like the closer you get to the logging sites, the worse these roads get. To the point where I was actually really worried if my truck was going to make it out. I actually had to use the diff locks in the game. I've never had to do that before, but I had to use the diff locks to get out of one of the logging sites. And I do intend to get that achievement, as I do intend to get most of the achievements in the game. But right now I'm just going for grab all the cities in the state achievement or discover all of them. But it's been good. Lots of little subtle things have changed the gameplay quite meaningfully in that portion of the game, or that area of the game. And as always with these updates it adds little things to the rest of the map as well, so that you can there's no logging sites anywhere outside of Oregon, but the new industries, there's like a new paper company and like a new furniture company that are now dotted around the rest of the map for you to deliver logs to in other states. Or you can now deliver things like paper and stationery, which is just fancy paper, but I like it. I love little stuff like that. So that's the Oregon expansion for American Truck Simulator. No new trucks or anything added. They've talked about adding a Volvo dealership in the near future and some other stuff, but now they've swapped over to their next Euro Truck expansion, which is, what's it called? Beyond the Baltic?
Yeah, Beyond the Baltic.
I'm way far away from getting that one. American Truck has been my focus over Euro Truck, but maybe someday I'll be talking about the specific expansion that comes out for Euro Truck. But that's really it. I mean, I have enjoyed my time with it, and I've been playing a crap ton of it. I'm going to play it more this week, but that's the new stuff for it. The other game I played this week, I played with my son a little bit over the weekend. It's a game I've played before, but the last time I played it was about 9-10 months ago, and it's gone through a lot of development since then. It's called Tracks, the train set game. It is a game where that you have wooden trains and tracks, and it's just a little sandbox building game where that you put together a layout, your tracks, and then put your train on it and train cars. And then it initially had some very basic decorations like 2 houses and a windmill and some trees, and you could put together like a station and some other stuff with like some just generic looking little wooden people figures. And in one of the modes, you could build a track layout with a station and deliver passengers like back and forth between the stations. They've now incorporated all of that stuff into the basic sandbox mode. And there's actually a new mode, which I don't have unlocked yet. It just says secret until you unlock it, which I could look it up, but I was like, I'm just playing this with my kid. I'm not going to look it up right now. But they've just added a lot of polish to the game. It runs better now. I assume they've done some optimization for it. And then they've added a ton of new decorations, many new houses. There's now little terrain, sort of almost like, those little play mats you can put on the floor that have like rivers and stuff on it for you to play with your cars or your trains or what have you. They now have several different ones of those, so you can create different custom layouts. They added some new special pieces so you can make your trains go faster. They added tunnels that teleport. So you just pick like one tunnel and connect it to the next one. And your train goes into the tunnel and comes out wherever the other tunnel is. They added more people. So there's, instead of just being like generic wooden figures, there's like people that have skis on and they're going skiing, and construction workers and office workers and farmers and people dressed in like suits and things. So just the increased added customization is nice. And it makes me actually want to come back to it on my own, because before I was just playing it with my son. Just something we could play together and build train layouts in, because we do that regularly in the living room or his bedroom, but they always have to be picked up, and they almost always get knocked over or crashed or smashed by my child. So, this is a way for us to build something together that never gets smashed or ruined or lost as long as I save it. So having all these extra things, he was like, wow, Daddy, we should build a new train layout in here and all this stuff. And I was like, in time, son, in time. We've only got, an hour to play, and I'm sure you'd rather actually drive the train around on a little track. He was like, yeah, you're right. So maybe, it's not like high on my to-do list, but maybe I might get back in it this weekend and put together a layout to show him when he gets home. But I've got plenty of other things to do around here, so this is kind of like, if all my stuff's done and I'm bored playing all of my other games or just need like a break, then I'll dive into it for a little bit. And I mean, it might be more engaging to do so than like once I get started, but it mostly would just be something fun to do for my kid to be able to show him when he gets home. But still, I mean, it's nice. And if you've got a child or children, or if you yourself just enjoy this sort of thing, but maybe you don't have the time or the space or the money to invest in, because after buying so many of these fucking wooden trains and tracks, God, they're expensive. You can buy like a really basic set for like $20, but when you actually need to get like the custom tracks and the bridges and the trains that look like real trains, I don't want to know how much money we spend on wooden trains. The nicest thing about it, though, is that they are high
he always
quality.
wants more, right?
Oh, God, yes. He always wants more. But the nicest thing about it is that they are high quality. Like, we just buy high quality stuff so that hopefully it will survive our son. And then once it does, we can pass it down to his children if he has them. And if he doesn't, I'll keep it and build wooden model trains in my office. Because I like trains.
And socks.
And I also like socks. So, yeah. That's it for games we played this week. That's the only 2 games I played.
Yeah, sub 40 minutes. That's a new record for quite a while.
Yeah, we haven't been that short on games since, like, God, when we first started recording and didn't know what we were doing yet.
Wait,
that's
we know
okay,
what
though.
We're doing?
Oh, yeah. We made it now. We got keys. Officially, we've been giving keys to give away to our audience. We're professionals. We know what we're doing.
I thought we were professionals when we started getting a little bit of sponsorship from the listeners.
Now we're like double professionals. No. We're industry professionals. We're supported
Does that
by
mean
the
we can be
industry.
consultants?
Yes. Shrink and Rage's consulting agency. Video game consulting agency. We'll tell you how not to fuck up your games.
Does that mean we should just skip directly to the Telltale?
Oh, I don't care.
Yeah, we could save that and save you some editing for once.
Just sitting here playing with my hair. It smells really nice. I found some shampoo with like olive oil and mint in it.
Well, are you going to eat it?
It smells really nice, guys. It smells good.
Well, I prefer my citrus smelling one.
My hair's lovely. Anyways.
And now we're done with the hair portion of the podcast. So should we actually talk about games, or actually talk about gaming news, I should say?
Indeed. Let's talk about some gaming news. There was a BAFTA lecture discusses why making games should be easier. Now, this is an extremely long article. I was surprised at its length.
Yeah, I mean, this was so that's a rarity for you then. But this is a very in-depth article talking about this. Well, talk, and I think we both took kind of separate things away from this, actually.
Yeah, I guess big picture. What was your takeaway from this article?
My big picture on this was, hang on, I need to get the name on this. This was, I'm not sure how to actually pronounce that.
How to pronounce what? Where?
Her name.
So this one's pretty tough. Siobhan Reddy?
You know it's bad whenever you go, oh.
Miss Reddy. or Mrs. Is she married? I don't know.
Oh no, do we cut her in half to find out? I know that's how we determine age, but I'm not sure about marital status.
We just have to cut our fingers off. How to pronounce paste that lady's name. Right.
Usually it's me screwing up names.
Pronunciation. Whoa. We were way wrong. This is an Irish...
No. To be fair, I said I couldn't do that. I knew my limits.
I was very wrong. This is an Irish name, and it's pronounced Siobhan.
How?
I don't know. Siobhan is another Irish form of Joan, meaning God is gracious. A popular name in Ireland where the anglicized versions are often used. Siobhan McKenna.
Do you think it has to be said with a slur? Drunken slur.
Drunken slur. Maybe.
Oh. But anyway.
Siobhan. Okay, cool.
We both took away a little bit of something different on this. I think the main emphasis on her talk was more talk about user creation in games. Since she was part of the team that was behind Little Big Planet, but also it seemed like she was very focused on the financial success of games and not the creation itself, at least for part of the talk. And I will say that user creation in games is something that could definitely be made easier for the most part. There are modding tools out there. I mean, Bethesda has been very good about that. For the most part, granted, they tend to also rely on the community a little more than what I would like. But, it's not exactly plug and play. It's not, as she said it, as easy as picking up as a guitar. Which, to be fair, I don't play the guitar, so I don't know. I mean, it looks like a foreign instrument to me, because it is.
I tried to learn how to play the guitar once in my life. And also then later bass guitar. I was unable to do so. But I have no musical or artistic inclination at all.
I mean, I can play the saxophone, but not the guitar.
I can play the radio. Kind of. I have bad signal out here. It's very staticky.
So you don't play it well?
No, I do not. My main takeaway from this was the points towards the end. I mean, she mentions it throughout, but the quote here that kind of stuck out in my mind is making games should have the same accessibility as using a camera, guitar, or a pencil, something you can start to learn just by picking it up. And I thought she was trying to focus on the accessibility, the getting into game design more easily and readily available as it becomes more mainstream. Like, that's what I thought the point she was more making. And I mean, it could be both. It absolutely could be both. This was obviously a long talk with a very long article about it.
Yeah, I did take 2 points away, which I guess my user creation tools does kind of fall into that, because that would be a lot more accessible. Sort of like, to give you an example, let's take Portal 2, where you have Hammer, which is Valve's level creation tool. But they later added in an in-game user level tool. It's not as powerful, but it's more accessible. And there are levels that's been created by that are very popular, but there's a great difference between those and those that are created through the more robust level creation system.
Let me ask you a question. This thought just popped into my head. Have you ever used a creation tool either in a game or a game creation tool itself to make content for a game?
I've dabbled, but I've never gone as far as, saying that, yes, I've definitely have. It's one of those that I've messed with before, but not to the degree of wanting to sit down and do a large chunk of content. Never creating a full level, just touring around with different mechanics, see how they work. That sort of thing.
Okay. I have.
I would say the further stuff I've ever gotten is things in like Trackmania, where it's essentially just like putting together chunks of track like you're making a slot car racetrack.
Yeah.
And just messing around with that, but never to the degree of, really fine tuning the track, where it's, it feels ready for other people to play with it.
Yeah. So I have several times actually for multiple games,
including BattleTech.
Yeah.
Boy, we're going to be talking about BattleTech again.
We will be soon when that expansion comes out, but I'm saving it. It'll be all right. But no, yeah, I mean, BattleTech was my first adventure into creating a mod. But other things using creation tools in game or provided by the developers. I used to create custom dungeons for Neverwinter, because it had a very robust built-in creation tool where you could, it had a lot of presets, and I'm bad at the actual level design. But the one creative aspect that I'm good at is writing. I am a pretty decent creative writer. So I would create custom quest lines and then, tweak a lot of the auto-generated dungeons and stuff to fit what I wanted. And I created several quest lines.
Please tell me you were better than Bethesda's dungeon creators and you used more than just skeletons again.
Yeah, I did more than just skeletons.
Thank you.
And more than just caves that you ran into and then back out of with an easy exit every time. I created a couple of custom quests on Star Trek Online. And then I used to generate custom maps all the time in Halo using the Forge system. I mean, you couldn't completely build the map, but, you could use it to place various weapons and objects and things and create custom levels. And there were a couple of levels in Halo, starting with Halo 3 when the Forge system came in, that were basically blank slates for you to build maps around. And I did quite a bit of map building. And at one point I was attempting to record Machinima. So myself and my friends got together and I was the one who designed all of the maps that we used. And no, I don't have that footage, unfortunately. If I did, I would share it in a heart. It's terrible. We were all terrible actors, but, it was all for fun.
So it was worse than first season Red versus Blue?
Oh, God. Yeah, way worse.
I mean, to be fair, Red versus Blue definitely set a standard, but it was a low bar to begin with. I think that's fair to say.
Oh, yeah. The first couple of seasons of Red versus Blue were honestly pretty bad going back. But, they were big pioneers in the industry. They weren't the first, but they certainly set a precedent and a bar. But no, ours were way worse than that. But, it was mostly just for fun. But I did post a lot of those maps online. I've also created a lot of custom content for the Forza series. Although that was incentivized for gameplay reasons, because you could create like custom shops with custom tunes and stuff for cars, as well as custom decals and liveries, and sell those in the game.
So how many of them were tits and dicks?
Not ones that I made, but there were plenty that I purchased from other people who made really nice boobs and butts and penises. But I did mostly custom tuning and things, because that's all, mathematical number crunching sort of stuff and like hours of testing to work out just the right, like, can I make this 1% better? And I had a pretty successful, what do they call them? Racing storefronts or something like that in Forza 3 and 4. So I've created a lot of custom content for games, actually. Having good tools really does help, honestly, because there's some tools that I've tried to use that were very shitty. Like anything from any Far Cry game, their custom level making tools and stuff are just garbage. They might be better in the most couple recent iterations of the game, but I haven't played any since Far Cry 3, and they're still pretty bad in Far Cry 3.
I was looking at some early game footage for Rebel Galaxy 2, which is a prequel to Rebel Galaxy, which, just makes things a little wacky in that. They have a very impressive ship painting system in that. It's full on Photoshop.
Nice.
I mean, it was amazing just how detailed it was, down to individual layers and be able to toy around with the opacity and proper mirroring, and I mean, it impressed me.
Nice.
So having things like that where you can make your ship exactly like you want, it's not quite the same as this particular person was talking about, because that's more cosmetic content, and they're talking about full-on games or full-on game modes. But it's a step in that direction. It's teaching people the necessary tools if they want to be more artistic, more towards the art aspect of game design. Because game design is not this one thing. It's more of an umbrella term with many, many, many different disciplines in it, from artists, coders, level designers, writers, down to marketing, team leaders. I mean, there's just so many different roles in that one wheelhouse that kind of all balling it together and just saying game design feels a little disingenuous almost. Kind of like they're talking from the top down and not really understanding how they got there.
Yeah.
Because just because a team leader may not be able to do every single job, or a manager for a company may not be able to do the art design, or be able to look at the code and say, okay, well, you fucked up here, 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 and here. I have no idea if that's how coding works, and don't quote me on that. But it doesn't mean that they are not in the game design field. As much as we dislike the suits at times, the suits are part of game design. So it's not quite, you don't need all the skills at hand to be able to say that you work in the field.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've had that discussion before, how the suits do play a part in game design.
Both positive and negative.
Yeah, because, I mean, we have seen lots of projects go off the rails when there's nobody saying, this is going to cost us too much money or time or whatever.
Yeah,
we got to ship it something.
Yeah, it's almost like we're going to be talking about suits fucking things up in a little bit in another topic, huh?
Yeah, but there are plenty of times where they do fuck shit up. Kind of like with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is not any on our news topics, but I just got to mention this. I brought this up with you.
All right, Jim Sterling.
I've got beef with this. Assassin's Creed Odyssey looks awesome. And all of the reviews, when it comes to at least focusing on the gameplay and stuff, sound like it's great. I love the introduction of the RPG elements, more leveling stuff. Having conversational choices is nice. They're pretty basic, but still it's nice. You can bone down with so many people of whatever gender you want to, regardless of whatever gender your character is. And I am all about all of those things. But it pisses me off to no end that I can't buy it, because one of the biggest microtransactions in the game is buying the thing that increases your XP gain so you don't have to spend so much time grinding. And that bothers me. Just let it be a good fucking game. Sell all of your DLCs and cosmetic shit. Fine. We've already lost on that one. Probably. Definitely. But God, fucking with the game design to encourage people to spend more money just pisses me off to no end. And I'm sad that I can't play what looks like a really awesome game that ticks off most of my boxes for playing games because of that bullshit microtransaction games as service garbage.
I gotta admit, I've written off most of AAA gaming these days just because of that.
I have too. I'll just keep playing American Truck Simulator, where they provide content to you that you just pay for, and then it's yours.
Granted, they do have their cosmetic DLCs, but they're not in a fucking loot crate.
No, there's no loot crates. You can pick and choose whatever cosmetics you want.
Now there is crates in the game. There's a lot of crates.
Oh, yeah, there's a shit ton of crates
but you
in the
don't
game.
open them. You haul them around. It's kind of the point of the game.
Yeah. So, I just had to get that off my chest. I've been feeling that for the last few days, seeing the reviews, and then, yes, watching Jim Sterling discuss it, and then it come up on several of the podcasts that I listen to. And pretty much everyone that I have seen or heard doesn't mention it or doesn't really care. And some people are even like, oh yeah, it's great. I just spent like $5 extra and now I get more XP. It's like, don't you see? Don't you understand? They created this problem to sell you something to fix it. But yeah, I should stop.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I don't mention
ranting.
microtransactions a lot in my reviews, mostly because I play indie games and they usually don't have them.
Yeah.
But I have mentioned them before, and particularly mobile ports. So should we get back to the topic at hand?
Yeah, sure.
Boy, you sound so enthusiastic about this.
I forgot where we were.
I was talking about how it felt like they were forgetting the path they took, and we're talking about how game design is just this one thing.
Right. Both of us are quiet.
Well, I'm getting distracted.
I mean, that's going to get cut out, so it'll just be like, right, both of us are quiet. But there was a good 5 or 6 second pause there where neither of us said anything.
Getting back to user-generated content, I really think that there should be more user creation tools in games.
I agree.
Now, don't sell them or allow the microtransactions to push in on that, because that just pisses me off.
Yeah. Don't. Creation tools and modding tools are great ways to increase the long tail of a game. And whenever developers sell that shit, then you're just cutting that off.
Well, I was going to ask from your point of view, your take on the article, since I've been chattering away.
Well, I mean, I kind of gave my take, though, earlier. I said where I thought it was coming from. I thought that this article was going to do more with the treatment, like as a response or a comment on what happened with Telltale, and discuss more the treatment of employees. That was a weird beeping noise. I think that was my phone. Really? But anyways, I was, surprised, I guess. I'm not really shocked, but surprised it wasn't. I was a little confused. Like, why are we going to know all this stuff about business? I get the creation angle and the creator tools and making game development more accessible to people. But I just thought that this was going to be a much larger comment on the industry's poor practices as a whole.
Yeah, that seems to be glossed over a lot by developers. I mean, there are calls to unionize, of course, but it seems to be the undercurrent right now, not really, what's in the forefront.
Yeah.
Your phone's making weird beeping noises again.
And I just turned off. I realized it was my Bluetooth speaker. Its battery's dying, so I turned it off. But I don't really know what else to say about this.
Well, they also go into a bit about kind of just the problem with discovery tools to begin with, where it's not so much just making a game, but there's also a large element of luck to be able to make it successful.
To make the game itself successful. Yeah.
A financial success, I should say. Maybe we've been looking at this the wrong way. Granted, I do think Valve needs to really work on their discovery methods. The discovery queue has proved to be, a lot more useful than we originally thought it was.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not just on Valve, and maybe we should be looking at, and I hate to use this term just because I don't like the term, but influencers.
Yeah.
As I wouldn't say gatekeepers, but more custodians to be able to sweep away some of the trash. But the problem is that that relies more on the clickbait culture, particularly with YouTube, where once you get past a certain size, all the channels kind of just congeal in this kind of blah cloud where they're not very different from one another. And you start running into the same discovery problems on YouTube as you do on Steam, where it's hard to find the more niche or the lesser known people or games, depending on where you're looking. So if you're trying to find a lesser known YouTuber, how are you going to find that without another custodian or another blog? And, it's just problems all the way down on Discovery. So it may just be passing the buck more than anything, but having some sort of secondary discovery method, be it blogs, be it videos, streams, I think maybe what Valve is really hoping to cut through all the shit that they've unleashed with just the open gates for Steam Discovery. Or Steam Direct, I should say.
Yeah.
Because I really don't think that they're being forced to try to fix this because they don't really have any competitors. They have other platforms out there, of course, but there's no one that can compete with Valve at all. Outside of particular niches, particular publishers, that sort of thing. So, maybe, this is just coming all the way back around to discovery methods, and there needs to be a new way to find content online in general. And game design is kind of getting caught up in all this because it's the forefront of the problem where it's very easy to get RPG Maker, a free version of that, and shit out a game. Or not even just that, but have it where a big thing now is the market scamming. Have you seen that going around?
Market scamming? No.
Oh, okay. Where
or maybe, but I don't know what you're referring to.
Okay. Well, certain devs, and I use the term dev loosely in this case, will release a game and then get to the point, either through nefarious or non-nefarious means, to allow key and item drops in the game. And they'll craft the items to look like popular items from other games, particularly Counter-Strike or Dota.
We talked about this on the show a couple of months ago, I think.
Well, it's popped up again just in the last day or two. Another game's doing this. Granted, Valve quickly swings the ban hammer, but it's a constant thing popping up.
Yeah.
So it's very... I would say it's very easy to make a low-effort shit game, but if you wish to put more effort or more polish onto it, then it becomes much, much, much tougher. Or you put effort into it, but you don't really refine it enough, and it gets lost in all the RPG Maker games, or all the dime a dozen visual novel games that look pretty much the same and play pretty much the same, and there's no way to really tell which ones are quality or not.
Yeah.
So maybe discovery is more the focus here than anything else. And I was kind of discounting that at first, where they were focusing on the financial model, but maybe it's just getting eyeballs on the game in the first place.
I mean, that's a huge chunk of it. You can't sell a product to people if they don't know it exists. The next thing, it has to be compelling in some way to sell, but that's why marketing is so important. Even for massive, well-known worldwide brands, like they still spend so much money on marketing because they know they have to keep getting new people to see their product.
They spend more money on marketing than they do to make the game.
Yeah.
Sometimes several times over. But I think we've beat this horse enough, don't you?
Yeah.
Unless you have something else to say.
I don't. I ran out of steam a while ago on this topic.
Well, it just kind of occurred to me that maybe we were approaching it from the different, kind of the wrong direction. So, how about a new direction?
Indeed.
Something funny, perhaps?
I think so. After months of asking for region lock, PUBG players are mad about region locks.
Yeah, I saw this and I just had to add it to the docket. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand kind of where they're coming from because at least from everything that I could find, it seems like they grouped regions via ping for some reason. granted, I don't play PUBG, so I can't confirm this in the first place, or first person. But there's a lot of people complaining still about getting Chinese hackers. So either people are just using VPNs and they're not really locking down the regions at all, which is very likely, or they did it very haphazardly, which, knowing Bluehole, could be a little of both, actually.
Yeah. Why not both? Although, honestly, given their track record, I would say that they just fucked it up in general.
Yeah, and the reason why they were originally calling for region locks was because of China. And, and boy, this is going to sound racist on the outset, the cheating nature and the cheating culture in China, where they'll actually market a computer by just how many cheats it can run, or as they call it, mods. If memory serves correctly on that one campaign we talked about briefly at one point.
Yeah, I think that's right. Or you are remembering that correctly, I think.
So it does make sense, but there's also people complaining about having trouble finding games, which, because of how PUBG's player base is more focused in China, it had a very lopsided peak player time. By, what was it, like 7 or 8 hours offset at PUBG's popularity peak?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just weird.
It was around, I think it was around 10 hours, 9 or 10 hours, because that's how far ahead China is compared to the United States, which would be the next largest single region.
Yeah, it was just hugely lopsided to the point where once a peak time hit in the U.S., well, Europe and entering peak time in the U.S., PUBG was down several 100,000 players. I mean, that's a little telling, isn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with this game or any game having most of its audience being Chinese, but it's just like that experience would be a completely different experience based on their gaming culture.
Mm-hmm.
But now the players are complaining because they're having to deal with playing with cheaters again, having to deal with very laggy games or difficulty finding games because their region has a low player count. I just found it amusing. Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Well, it's the monkey paw effect, right? Where you get your wish, but it's corrupted. They wished for region locks. They got them, but it's Bluehole implementing them. And I just go to the Steam servers or the Steam discussions. Well, for one, they've locked down the Steam discussion, so you have to buy the game to be able to talk. Which, this is one of the few forums that I'm actually familiar with that does that.
I didn't even know that was a thing on Steam.
Yeah, click on any of these. You will not be able to chat. Posting privileges. Only players who own PlayerUnknown'S Battlegrounds are allowed to post in this forum.
Well, that's a thing, I guess. I don't know. It's this makes me feel kind of like the whole YouTube comments thing. Like whenever people turn off YouTube comments, it's like, I get it, but still, like, I wish you'd just leave it on.
Yeah, well, Valve was talking very recently about putting more moderation onto the Steam forums, so maybe there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for the intern that gets stuck with that particular job.
Yeah. Until
they build their algorithms, of course. But gotta love this one. I'm sorry. I'm scrolling through the forums. PUBG is a dead game soon. Player base down 200,000 players. Not sure if they're being sarcastic on that. I'm just reading the thing, but you see so often as well just people talking about dead games whenever the player base is very lively.
Yeah. I don't know. PUBG will definitely continue to lose players at this rate, and it might wind up dead in some regions, but I suspect it'll be a long time before that game actually dies, just because of how much of a player base it has in certain areas. Like, there will be hardcore players that hang on for a long time.
And I would say just because of the nature, I would say China would probably be the very last one that I will see a severe player drop off. And no, I'm not going into the cheater culture. I'm going into the fact that Chinese players will also grind and use the skinnominity to buy other games.
Yeah.
And as long as they don't lock that down, they'll continuously play PUBG to essentially have a job to buy other games.
Yep. And I mean, on the one hand, it's like, why? But on the other hand, it's like, well, I mean, that's an inventive way to earn money to play games.
If you're enjoying the game enough,
yeah,
then you could just consider it just additional income.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that at all.
No, definitely not. I mean, I do stuff like...
I sold off all my old TF2 stuff, and I got over $100 to spend on the Steam winter sale.
Yeah.
Because I loaded up TF2 again, and I just saw what it had become, and that was enough for me. I turned it off, uninstalled, and sold off my stuff. Did I ever go into it? Expecting to make a payday? No, particularly because I started playing before the economy was even added to the game. But even afterwards, I did it because occasionally I would get a cosmetic I would like, or I would just be goofing around in the game and that I enjoyed. So I definitely see the appeal of it, particularly if you're still enjoying the game.
Indeed, I wish I could play more games and make money to buy other games.
Well, if you
I have gotten my fair share from trading cards over the years, but still,
both grinding them and also getting them for therapy.
Indeed.
Well, if you play enough Euro Truck and get in some events, you can make a little bit of money on that.
Really?
Yeah, there's market items for Euro Truck and American Truck. You didn't know this?
No, I didn't know this.
Yeah, I actually have... Well, I didn't get the rare one, but whenever they had the Big Sur event, there was a little cabin accessory that's a plush excavator. The traditional construction orange one is 19 cents, but the rare, I think it's red, is something like $2 or $3.
Nice. Well, I look forward to whenever more events roll around.
Now I need to go double check that because it's, and also some of the paint jobs are tradable. Some of the backgrounds are tradable. Let's see. Of course, emoticons and backgrounds. No, yeah, it's going to bug me if I don't find it on here. Let's see. American Truck Sim. Let's see if that gives it to me. Probably not. I'm just wondering how much it is now. Oh, there's American Truck Simulator. Let's see. Some of the emoticons are actually starting to climb in price. Unfortunately, searching American Truck adds a lot of stuff to the Steam market. Almost like their search tools are shit, huh?
Almost.
Wow. Yeah, their search tools are absolute shit. It's giving me Rust stuff. Truck door for Rust, $2. It looks like some sort of in-game item. Oh, it's a skin. But yeah. So yeah, technically you could do that. I mean, granted, don't quit your day job, right?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that.
But for kids these days, I mean, there's a reason why certain games are very popular with the kids on top of, just it being, the big thing.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a kid, could earn a little bit of money to buy new games by playing one of those games. You don't have a job or a life or anything else to do. Fuck it, man. Just play those games all day.
Play Counter-Strike for a bit, get some crates, crack them open. Sell your crap for hardly anything because you didn't get lucky. Get addicted to gambling. Steal your parents' credit card.
Yeah.
That's how it works, right?
That's how it works. Something like that. Ultimately, this leads to drugs and alcohol, though. Like, that's the end game.
Is that before or after the final boss?
Drugs and alcohol is the final boss. Anyways.
Speaking of final bosses.
Yes, indeed. Telltale, we're going to go on the continuing adventures of Telltale. Specifically, the air quotes skeleton crew has also been laid off since the last time we discussed.
Those who were responsible for the sacking have been sacked.
Monty Python, yay!
But yeah, it seems that, well, Telltale's pretty much dead now. Originally, they had a skeleton crew going for Minecraft Story Mode on Netflix, which turns out Netflix having essentially choose your own adventure games is a thing that I had no idea was a thing. Who knew, right?
Yeah, I also discovered that thanks to all of this.
So, hey, great coverage for Netflix's interactive content, right?
Yeah.
But it seems like, them holding on to a skeleton crew to fulfill obligations to partners. Those obligations have no longer being fulfilled. Either they didn't have the money and time to do that, or they decided that it was more worthwhile just to break those obligations. There's no info on exactly what. It's just a couple of tweets from the people that were remaining saying, hey, remember how I was going to be on a skeleton crew staying for a while? And I was part of it? Nah, just joking. We all just got laid off too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of want to laugh at the sarcasm, but also just the situation is so shitty. I'm like, eh.
Yeah, it's amazing just how poorly Telltale not only just handled their own game development studio, but also any lasting legacy has been soured by just how poorly they treated their staff in general.
Yeah.
I mean, there was rumors going around with how toxic Telltale was. And just, their tools just being absolutely obsolete and needing to be updated years ago and finally getting around to it. But yeah, this just is a tale, we're telling a tale about how game devs need to unionize to actually get some sort of protection for themselves. Granted, they are breaking a ton of laws in California.
Yeah, potentially breaking some federal laws too. That one's the jury's still out, both I guess metaphorically and potentially literally.
Yeah,
on ways that they could find loopholes out of some of the clauses in the laws, but in California, nope, ain't no way out of that shit.
Yeah, it's almost like it's some sort of liberal wonderland, huh?
Yeah.
But
maybe I should go there.
Take me with you. We could live in one of the cheap corners of the state, reap the benefits, but still, be able to live. Stay far away from San Francisco. Not because of the culture there. It's just expensive. We could take day trips.
I mean, I've got a car, so we could work it out.
But anyways, there is a bit of a bright side to this. Not the whole skeleton crew thing, but there is a continuation, it seems, for The Walking Dead. We talked about how it seemed like there was the way that they were wording it. It sounded like they were just going to pull a Half-Life 3 and either have a blog post talking about the upcoming or the remaining story, or because they were saying in some form, maybe a comic book or something, something cheaper to make than a video game to at least give something to those who bought the season pass. Well, it turns out that they were able to strike a deal with, and now I'm blanking on the name, and I'm trying to find it here, of the company, and you're not helping. Skybound.
I was gonna say I don't know it. I looked up the pronunciation.
You did your work for the week.
I did my work.
They struck a deal with Skybound, which holds the rights to the original comic to continue the season. Granted, it's unknown exactly the time frame of this, but it does look like the season pass holders are at least going to get all their episodes. In theory, at least. That's assuming, of course, that they release it as part of the season pass. There's actually no obligation that they would have to do that, is there?
Not without seeing any sort of contract that they draw up, or
of course,
or something. But barring something that's in part of the contract to get the rights, no, there's no obligation for them to do that.
Great, it would be a huge dick move.
You go.
I was going to say it would be a huge dick move to those who bought the original season pass, and it would torpedo any continuation of the story or any other actual games that they produce, because as far as I know, they're a publishing house and they're not a development studio. So they haven't actually created any games. I'm just double checking on that. It looks like they're pretty much just a publisher, which is fine. I mean, that does mean that they at least have their toes in the water when it comes to their game development. But they were talking about wanting to get the original staff, but at least as far as recording, Skybound hasn't been able to secure the original devs yet, which is not surprising because they were cut without severance, which once again, huge dick move and highly illegal move. The developers had to scramble, and there was a hashtag for the developers from Telltale, essentially just snagging up all the talent from them. So I would actually be shocked that they were even able to get a good chunk of the original dev team. Which the entire thing. Yeah,
and regardless of whether or not how many people they might be able to get from the original dev team,
it's how many want to continue on it, right?
It's
it may just be just too bad of memories.
Those negative associations. I don't know personally.
Well, considering the quote here, we don't believe the game could properly be completed by anyone other than members of the original team. It does make me a little skeptical of the quality of the remaining 2 episodes. And from everything that I've heard, the 3rd episode was pretty much done. It was coming around to final polish, and with a little bit of just bug fixing, which I realize may be shocking, but Telltale seems to actually have done bug fixing at some point, right? And the 4th episode was in the middle of getting its voice lines recorded. Based on another article that I read a week or 2 ago that gave an idea of just where the development was. So, it's not out of the realm of possibility for others to be able to finish the game, but it seems almost like they will be almost unwilling if they can't get the original dev team.
Yeah, and even with the original dev team, there's no guarantee that they'd be able to finish it or do as good of a job as they would have if all this wouldn't have happened. They might be missing key resources, and even being able to get all of the resources, the delay that's going to be put on development could cause further problems. It's just one of those things, like the farther away you get from something you're working on, the more difficult it might be to come back due to any just forgetting what you were doing or where you were at.
It's like loading up a save file in an RPG, coming back a few weeks later, and you're like, what the fuck was I doing?
Yeah. So, I hope that it gets finished and is still given to the people who purchased the season pass. But this is one of the reasons why we don't buy season passes or pre-order things.
Yeah, I said it before. I'm about the worst person to buy these episodic games because I typically get them after they're fully released and usually on sale.
Yeah, same.
But honestly, it seems like it's the safe bet these days. If Telltale could fail, right?
Yeah.
Granted, looking back, it's one of those, we should have seen the writing on the wall a little bit clearer. But the amount of sheer incompetence is just staggering based on everything I've read. I don't think anyone could have really foreseen that level of just poor management from a company that seemed to be very successful through getting all the licensing deals it was getting.
Yeah.
Without
it's one of
looking at
those
the sales
hindsight
stats,
is
I should say.
it's one of those hindsight is 2020 situations. Like going into it, like you just think like you just said, they had all of these licenses with big name, big recognizable names and companies and franchises, and it's like, oh, they're doing fine. And then they had that first layoff, and it's like, okay, maybe they had some troubles. They expanded a little too much, but they've got Batman and they've got Guardians of the Galaxy, and they're doing the next Walking Dead, and it's like, oh,
and they had Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's like, oh, the curtain just came down, and there's nothing here.
The curtain came down, and the man behind the curtain was dead.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, in hindsight, sure, some of the signs were more obvious, but it's one of those things like you just don't notice when everything seems to be fine.
Especially, I think it was the licensing deals. It sounds like they were paying too much for the licenses, and they were never recouping based on just sales figures.
Yeah.
And I think people started to see the shine on the Telltale formula wore off quickly after The Walking Dead. It was still fairly fresh with The Wolf Among Us, and I think that's why it was. I think it was the secondary successor, or the second most successful, if memory serves correctly from that chart, which I don't have handy. I know it was very popular as well. Which, the fact that they waited so long on the Wolf Among Us 2 is a little surprising.
Yeah.
Maybe Rights was being caught up with that. But it was very obvious. Your choices, even though they talked about how much they mattered, never really did. It was always a very linear path, and you never had any real freedom. If they were more transparent, or they took more risks, which you really can't with a Telltale game because of that licensing, they were shackled. You can't tell an outrageous story with Batman without being a very, very, very big name. And even at the end of the day, it's still Batman, right?
Right.
Some characters have more leadway than others. Joker, for example. I mean, after all, if he has to have a history, why can't it be multiple choice? Right?
Well, there's some interesting.
No, that's an actual quote from the Joker.
Oh, didn't know that. I'm not as big a Batman fan as, I don't know, one might expect me to be. I was always a Marvel guy.
Yeah, what was it that you said at one point? Marvel has better heroes, but DC has better villains.
Yep, that's the general consensus among comic book fans.
Like, is there a Marvel villain as deep as like Mr. Freeze, or as conflicted, I should say?
Maybe. Not that I know of. I mean, there are some deeper, better Marvel villains, but nothing quite like that.
Marvel and DC could just kiss, make up, and come together with some of their galleries.
They have a few times, actually. They've had several crossover series over the years.
Yeah, but anything recent?
Not that I'm aware of, but I haven't really kept up with comics ever since my kid was born. Children.
Yeah, I tried to read some of the New 52, and I just fell off of it. And now, at this point, it's so far behind that, it's several novels worth of reading. Plus, it also very quickly got intertwined when they did a universe reboot, essentially. Well, not essentially, they did. They quickly started tying together comics that I didn't care about.
Yeah.
And that kind of killed it for me. Sort of like how Telltale did.
Indeed. Indeed. So let's go talk about another game studio and licensing stuff. CD Projekt Red's having some stuff going on with their creative rights. I said problems at the beginning, but that's not necessarily. Both of them are not problems. One of them is a problem, and the other one is something that's a good thing.
This is just a shit out luck situation. The author of The Witcher, which do you want to take this one?
Yeah, Andrzej Sapkowski. And yes, in case you didn't realize that, The Witcher was originally a book series written by this Polish author, who I probably messed his name up, but that's how I've heard people pronouncing it all week.
So you would have been better than I did. But anyway, before the original Witcher game, the very first one, they were CD Projekt Red contacted him about licensing rights. Yeah, as you do. And instead of taking a chunk of the profits, he opted for just a lump sum, which I'm hoping that
I think it was something like $5,000 or something like that.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that low. Let's see. I'm not seeing a price on here, but anyway,
it wasn't a lot. It was less than 10 grand. I don't remember the exact figure, but I've heard it a couple of times in the last week.
Well, he went for the lump sum, a paltry amount, it seems. Granted, at the time, CD Projekt Red hadn't really done a lot.
No, this was in the early or mid 2000s?
Yeah, this was, according to one of the comments, I believe it's actually on this article. At the time, they only did the Polish version or the Polish translation of Baldur's Gate. That's it.
Yeah. And now it's one of gaming's biggest RPG franchises.
Mm-hmm. So in hindsight, it's one of those things that, yes, we do have the ability to say, yeah, that was stupid. But at the same time, he had no way of knowing that video games were a thing. Granted, he is kind of an old curmudgeon when it comes to video games from everything I've seen, particularly the Witcher series. But that may be a bit of sour grapes as well,
Yeah.
But it seems that he is suing CD Projekt Red, trying to get a chunk of the profits. And there's actually, was it on the, I think it may have been on another site that I saw that, and I'll have to go digging for that real quick. I think it was on Game Industry Biz, which I didn't grab that article. That there's actually a provision in Polish copyright law where he may actually have some footing.
Okay. I haven't seen anything about that, but I wasn't trying to make any legal judgment calls because I mean, the American legal system is incomprehensible enough, but throw in, another country's legal system that I know nothing about at all.
Yeah, from what I could recall, and I'm quickly browsing this to try to find it. Let's see. Oh, this may be it. I'm not seeing it here, but essentially there's a provision in Polish copyright law where if the royalties is significantly disproportionate to the profits, that there is a chance to renegotiate, essentially.
Yeah.
So he does have a legal footing. Not saying that's right, but it does mention the Article 43 here, so it does on the TechRaptor article. That there is some sort of legal footing for him to try to essentially take a cut of the profits, but it's still, kind of a dick move after running off everything and being a very bitter person about it, huh?
Yeah.
Granted, seeing The Witcher absolutely blow up.
I mean, he has had some secondary success because of that. The Witcher's getting a TV show made. I think he's still benefiting from that. Like, he didn't sell full rights to The Witcher, just the rights to produce a video game. So, Netflix show.
It actually does a very quick synopsis of it in the article, which I glossed over. The article states that should there be a large difference between the money the author is given and the party that they grant their rights to, the author can request more money, which Seems like a bit of an oversight in Polish copyright law, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's more surrounded, or it's more focused, supposedly, on scamming for rights than it is for this particular case. So I'm not sure if there's actually precedent for this. Granted, yeah, foreign legal systems, it's hard to really say, if he's in the right or not.
Yeah. From my sort of American perspective, it's like, dude, you made this deal. This is,
And a decade ago, or over 2 decades ago.
Yeah, like you made this deal a long time ago. I get the fact that you're pissed that in the long run you made the wrong choice, but that was your choice that you made and you have to take responsibility for it. But yeah.
Plus, like you said, he has gotten secondary success because of The Witcher becoming more culturally significant, which may sound like a dickish way of saying, well, he wouldn't have been otherwise. But let's be perfectly honest. Outside of Poland, do you think The Witcher was very successful before, let's say, when was the release date of the first Witcher game? 2000 some?
Yeah, the late 2000s, something like around 2008, give or take a year. I don't think so. I mean, I discovered The Witcher by accident in like 2009 or 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Bought it on like the 4-disc DVD compilation or whatever. Played it, liked it well enough, and then went looking for additional Witcher material, and I found the books. And I never bought them or read them, but I thought that the books were based on the game. And then, at some point, like, yeah, and I learned this before this whole deal, but at the time I thought the books were based on the game, and then I learned that it was the other way around. And so, I mean, there probably would be people who would have heard of it outside of Poland. The internet age, there's ways to discover things, but it would not be as successful as it is today, I imagine, without the success of the Witcher game. Certainly wouldn't be getting the Netflix series if it wasn't for the game. The whole reason that happened is because Henry Cavill, the guy that they're getting to play Geralt, who is more commonly known as Superman from the DC EU Superman movies. Superman, and then Batman versus Superman, and then Justice League.
Oh, so he has a chance of actually being in a good movie.
Yeah. Henry Cavill's actually an excellent actor. But those DC, or the recent iteration of DC movies have been garbage. But I've seen Henry Cavill in some other stuff, and he's a very good actor. But anyways, he's a big fan of the Witcher series and has talked at length about playing the games and how he kind of helped push to make this happen because he wanted to play in the series, and then they decided to cast him as Geralt. Sort of like the whole situation with Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool, like it was sort of his passion project.
Yeah, but he did he leak the test footage?
I don't think so. Not to my knowledge.
Let's be honest. Ryan Reynolds wanted to be Deadpool enough that he made Deadpool.
Yeah. Henry Cavill, though, I read this in an article like discussing this the other day. When he got the call that they were going to pick him to be Superman in Man of Steel, like he knew what it was. He knew they were calling him to either give him or tell him that he got the role or not. But he just let the call go to voicemail because he was raiding in WoW at the time. And he said something along the lines of like, I knew they were calling me to tell me that I'd either gotten the part or not. And given the fact that they were calling me, that means I probably got it. But I was in the middle of a raid and I couldn't stop. Otherwise, my guildmates would have been mad at me. So he returned their call the next day.
And they may have had kryptonite.
They may have.
Yeah, I kind of wish that DC kept on with, they have some of it, but the animated universe. Yeah, the old older TV shows now, and the movies based around it.
Yeah, that's coming back. I forget. There was one that just came out. The only reason I know that is because CinemaSins did Everything Wrong with video of it.
Yeah, I kind of stopped watching that because it felt like it was the same jokes used over and over again.
They are. I don't watch the Everything Wrong with videos, but I just they were talking about it on the Sincast, I do like their podcast because they are out of their sort of personas and they genuinely are movie buffs. But they were, they talk about their Sins videos every once in a while.
Let's see. Looks like the latest one is The Death of Superman.
I guess that's it.
The one before that was Suicide Squad Hell to Pay.
I don't know. It was one of those. Anyways, there's a part 2 to this, or like a second, whatever, which is fantasy author Brandon Sanderson is considering granting CD Projekt Red rights to Mistborn series.
Giving them in some articles I've seen. Which he was the author that was granted to the ending of The Wheel of Time. And he's a very prolific author. Grant, I haven't actually gotten to read much of his stuff. I need to go resolve that, don't I?
I've also not read any of the stuff.
I read his last 2 novels for the Wheel of Time series. Yes, I actually got through the Wheel of Time.
I have always wanted to try tackling the Wheel of Time, but it would take the entirety of time for me to read it at the rate that I get to read books. So I've never really...
a good thing there's no endings and no beginnings to the wheel. But there is an ending.
Yeah, to the series. But yeah, okay. So it says here in the article that he said he was just going to
one of the Wheel of Time is one of those series that you could also drop like 2 or 3 novels from the middle and not really miss anything. I listened to it through audiobooks, and believe me, there was large chunks of that series that did nothing for the overall story.
Gotcha. All right, so here's a quote. These are 2 things I want way more than money. If it came down to it, I'd give away Mistborn rights for free in a heartbeat to get a quality adaptation. I can only offer the Mistborn rights because those are the only video game rights I've retained. In fact, I've had conversations with game studio heads, and the money paid to the author is never a stopping point in these conversations for either side. So,
yeah, I'm not familiar with Mistborn. I'm quickly doing a look on it.
I've heard the name, but I'm not familiar with it.
Mistborn is a series of epic fantasy novels. Let's see, there are 8 in the series right now. I should say 7 with the 8th one coming out next year. And boy, those are long novels. Right now, with the 7 novels, it's just over 1 million words. So obviously, he's been inspired by the Wheel of Time.
Or Game of Thrones, or both.
No, can't be Game of Thrones. He's actually releasing another novel.
Oh, sick burn. At one point, the next Game of Thrones novel was supposed to be coming out in like 2018 or 2019, and then Georgie Boy was like, "Nah, I'm not good. It's not going to happen." I gave him the Game of Thrones show people the notes for the rest of the book.
So he's not even bothering?
He's going to write it at some point, but he just took another break to work on some other project, which I don't know what that is. Are you there? Uh-oh. Well, folks, we'll see if I get a text here in a minute from Rage saying his internet went down. He said, and it just all went away. If that's the case, I'm going to go do some stretches and then go to bed. Maybe do some Euro Truck. And my phone's buzzing. I think it did. I just got a text that said, son of a bitch. I'll take that. Okay, he's restarting his modem. He's still here in Discord, which is weird. Usually it drops someone if they're gone. He says, I haven't stopped recording. Neither have I. Oh, there we go. He just dropped off of Discord. I'm back.
Well, I am as well.
I noticed.
My modem reset on me. I don't know why. But it did a quick reconnect, and it looks like I'm okay on my connection.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't stop recording.
I didn't either. I didn't realize, it was down until, I tried to open up another link, and it timed out.
Yeah, you started a new sentence. You just got out, and then went, "Erk," and then you were dead silent.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll just
Well, I
keep
was just
recording. I'll double check the sync. I made a note of the timestamp. And
Yeah,
I'll
it does look
recheck
like
the
my
sync.
connection's a little sluggish, but 446.44, but my upload looks good. I know, 446, sluggish. Right?
Yeah. My internet's so slow. I mean, granted, I would complain too. Paying for more than double that, you're not getting it.
To be fair, I'm actually at the theoretical limit of my hard drive. Even downloading on my SSD, I don't get completely my full speed.
Yeah.
But the jump from the 100 package to the 1 gig, I think it was like $20.
Yeah, at that point, why not?
Yeah. Plus, I splurge on 2 things. I splurge on my data plan on my phone, and I splurge on my internet connection. And both of them combined, I would say, is about an extra $40 to $50 a month. That's not bad, huh?
No, not bad at all.
Considering I get essentially unlimited data on my phone. I have 22 gig quota before they start throttling me. Which honestly, 22 gigs on a phone, unless I'm tethering, is a fuck ton.
It's pretty hard to go through. Between Katie and I, we use less than 8 a month. And I'm the one who's using most of it at like 4-ish. And I mean, I consider myself a power user. But I'm always there's Wi-Fi everywhere. So I'm always connected to Wi-Fi anywhere I go. Except at work. Because the Wi-Fi sucks ass at work. Gotta watch porn using my data plan. Because my work PC is monitored. Wah, wah. I don't actually watch porn at work. You're being quiet again. Did your internet die? I'm gonna text you. Oh, my phone's buzzing. I got another, damn it. It's dead. That means he missed me talking about watching porn at work, though, guys. And gals. I don't actually watch porn at work. Save that for home. Don't want to get in trouble because I couldn't keep it in my pants. Plus, like, of the 10 commandments of therapy, number 1 is thou shalt not have sex with your clients. Although I guess watching porn is not the same as having sex with your client, but still a bad thing to do in a professional workplace. Also, guess we weren't kidding, too, about how long was it going to take for something to get fucked up. I'm just going to leave all this in. I mean, the silences will be cut out, but hey, got to make that time quota somehow. We've got enough done for the episode. We got through all of our news topics, so all that's left is Community Corner with our listener question and Discovery Queue. And if we have to, we can roll the question in the next week. Might grab some of the pre-roll stuff and stick it on for, to pad out a little extra time. Otherwise, for now, dear listener, just enjoy this time with me and you, and also you, and her over there. I'm in your ears. I want to play more Star Wars RPG. Looking forward to Star Wars RPG night tomorrow night. For those in the community that are a little more tightly knit, been working on some custom weapon mods for Phil's character in our ongoing game. I'm quite pleased with what I came up with. His biggest complaint was that his blaster pistols were too weak, so I focused on ways to make them more powerful. Just standard blaster pistols. Nearly doubled the attack power of them. Maybe effectively doubled it, considering that one of the mod versions I came up with, he gets boost dice and extra pierce. So it's like adding extra damage to the weapon. Pretty pumped. Still not as powerful as my previous bowcaster or my current heavy blaster rifle, which I have heavily modified. I'm not sure if we're taking new members into our current group or not, but there are 2 groups that have been playing somewhere between regularly and semi-regularly. If you're interested in joining, contact Cube in our community. He's the GM for both groups. You can hit him up on Discord. Or I guess you could talk to me, and I could help figure out what to do, where to go. The Wednesday night group is up to 4 players. And the Saturday night group was at 3. They were 3 and 3, and now it's at 2. So, otherwise, I'm seriously tempted to go turn on some American Truck Simulator right now. But I won't. I'll just sit here and play with my hair quietly. Oh, here's another text from Rage. He is resetting his router. I went to text him back Roger Dodger, and my phone auto-corrected to Robert Downey. Rage texts me updates every step of the way. I accidentally opened up Amazon on my phone. I'm just going to send him a thumbs up emoji. Speaking of Star Wars RPG, got some messages in our chat. My firepower upgrades for Phil are not going unnoticed by Jim. And he's back.
Well, let's see for how long this time. I say if we drop, or if I drop again, I close my recording and put it in Dropbox and see when it uploads.
Okay. I mean, we've got enough to do a full show. We were getting close to the 2-hour mark, and I've just been sitting here talking the whole time to add content on. Just talking about Star Wars RPG and a few other things. So
cussing Sunlink?
Yeah.
Or is that... Well, that's not really on my end because I just went silent because you have a good motherfucker for me. And I believe a son of a bitch there as well. Let's just put it this way. The way I have my desk set up, the modem's actually behind an old CD holder. So it diffuses the light. Because the modem's really bright.
Yeah.
And when I realized my connection was going down, I moved that and I saw all the lights not lit properly. So not happy about that. And the slightest. Much like the owner of the copyright of The Witcher, huh?
Indeed. Bringing it back around full circle to the beginning of that topic.
Granted, not really much to talk about here. I mean, I was just talking about how it's really refreshing to see an author value the cultural significance of a video game. I'm not sure if you heard any of that before.
I didn't hear any of that before. Like I said, I just heard you go, and then that was it. So.
But yeah, video games do offer a lot different story opportunities, and having a prolific writer on hand to be able to flesh that out or be able to consult with, I think would be a very worthwhile partnership. And I really hope that, he does get the deal with CD Projekt Red, because that would be interesting.
Yeah.
And hopefully that, they cut him with the proper portion of the profits, even though he doesn't really seem to care about that because it seems like he has had enough money. So obviously he hasn't worked in the video game industry.
Apparently not. But I mean, yeah, like you said, it is good to see, artists. And I think there's a lot of artists who do care more about the integrity of their work and value
like Blanksy?
The cultural significance. You mean Banksy?
Banksy, sorry.
Yeah. But I think there are
for
plenty
for those who haven't seen that, look up Banksy Shredder.
Yeah, it's interesting, but we're certainly not a fine art podcast.
Yeah, because I don't get art. But yeah. But those who do it for the love of the craft and love of culture rather than just a paycheck.
Yeah.
Granted, I think I could understand where I don't know how to pronounce his name at all. And I'm a little too irritated right now because my connection dropping twice to really even bother. But the Witcher author, I can understand why he's a little peeved seeing the runaway success after getting what I'm sure he considers now a pittance.
Yeah. We'll see how
So
that plays out, though. We might report back on it in a few weeks if it has some interesting developments.
Probably a few months or years.
Oh,
To be
yeah.
perfectly
Yeah,
honest.
this will probably be a prolonged court case.
Yeah, unless CD Projekt Red sees the opportunity to just pay him off again with the patent.
Which they might. I mean, they could offer him, $100,000 easy. Be like, here, go away.
But then you run into the possibility that he may be coming back for more. The blackmail scenario.
Well, they could, though, put it like if you accept the settlement, you...
Well, it really depends on copyright law there. And copyright law is archaic at best.
Yeah.
And whenever a copyright law is updated, it always seems to be, to borrow a term from Jim Sterling, the wrong way.
The wrong way. Yep. All right. Well...
So should we hurry along to another topic before things go tits up again? Or we're at Community Corner, are we?
Yeah, we're at Community Corner. So that was our last news topic.
Yeah, we had no tweets. The only email we had was from the dev, and we already covered that. The Discord was a little interesting today. It was, or not today, but this week. It was full of potatoes.
Yeah, I saw that. Good joke there.
Yeah, I love the original thermal paste. Delicious.
Agreed. Okay, well, let's get into this.
But if you wish to provide content for the Community Corner, you can do so. bglpodcast@gmail.com or bglpodcast on the Twitter.
Alrighty. So our question from this week we're going to tackle from the community has been one that I've been asked by a lot of people with a few variations on the question. But the one that kind of made me think, okay, I'd like to talk about this now, was the specific one I got asked earlier and then brought it up to you. So the main question is, what would be some video games that we think would make good movies? And that's been a question that's been asked many times. But I got asked a specific caveat to that earlier, which was putting a restriction on the question. Basically, you need to think outside the box. Don't think about games that are story focused. Think about other types of games and what you could do with that creatively. So, no Uncharted, no Tomb Raider, no, anything that's the big point of the game is its story. What could you do creatively with that? And I came up with a couple.
I came up with an entire genre.
Okay. Who do you want to go first?
Well, let me go first just because of my connection issues, potentially, but also the fact that I have it pulled up now.
Yeah.
There's actually two genres I came up with, but one that I have a lot more personal connection to. The town builder colony management game, mostly because we've been playing Dwarf Fortress. And I went into my save file before the show, and there's a thing called Legends Viewer. And whenever you create a world in Dwarf Fortress, it creates a history and then runs the world. So I found one just pretty much at random. This was a guy that was born before the Dwarven civilization really rose, 20 years before, and he died in the year 59 after dwarves essentially founded their civilization. He was a vampire, and he was burnt alive in a vampiric purge.
Okay.
In the year 13, so he was in his 30s by this point, he became a priest of the Fellowship of Balakin. And also during that year, he started working at the Abbey of Evening for that particular religion, and Reykdwarvid. And in year 14, he became married to Zusko Nightbends. In the year 18, in the midwinter, a freak of twilight, a natural beast, attacked his town. And during the duel, he fought violently, but was able to escape. In the year 21, during the early autumn, a human named Visceral Gurskaris formed a false friendship with him to extract information about the town. In the year 25, a Minotaur attacked the town. Once again, not causing too much damage, fought off by the town's guard. However, during the year 49, granted, I could have done this a lot better if I took notes and actually wrote out a story.
Right.
But in the year 49 of the Dwarven calendar, he started to feel the ravages of age, and he started becoming obsessed with his own mortality and start to extend his life through any means necessary. In the winter of that year, he found he profaned the Abbey of Evening in his own town, bringing about a curse from that deity, cursing him to search the night and for blood, turning him into a vampire. He's lived like that for 10 years until another false friendship to gain information on the town revealed his true nature during the early winter of the year 59 of the Dwarven calendar. And then by late winter, he was a victim of the vampire purge. This is just one character out of my world picked just at random, just because he was a vampire, pretty much. But he also, throughout the years, fathered 11 children. None of them vampires, but all of them with their own stories, their own lives in my world. And you can pick any one of these little tidbits and use it as a basis of a story. But even not really focusing on Dwarf Fortress at all, you could also look at the base builder genre itself and use it as a struggle against the elements. Particularly, I would say things like Banished, or even definitely RimWorld, where it's a more wild world and having to combat it more directly than Dwarf Fortress may for the most part. I'll just use Dwarf Fortress as an example here because we were already playing it and I had my history preloaded, so I could just go through pretty much at random in the Legends viewer and find little bits of history. Look at towns, see them ransacked, see religions rise and fall, see kingdoms rise and fall, see trade deals, see festivals. So this is a really good place for an idea of a movie to really germinate. The other one is just the survival genre. And I would say actually a pretty good candidate would be a game I didn't really click for me, Factorio.
That would make
a man versus nature with technology story, almost Castaway-esque.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no story in that whatsoever. But that's another entire genre that you could look at and find stories just through player interaction with the world, with a little bit of lore here and there for some games. But for Factorio, you're told your spaceship crashed, build it a rocket. That's it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea.
Well, I have to admit, I do have a soft spot for Dwarf Fortress in general, so you'll be able to go through and just look at the family trees, and particularly if I go... did you look at the Legend Viewer at all?
No.
Oh, you may want to export your world, and you could go in and find entire family trees and watch people build up families, see the families branch out, and occasionally intermarry. Cousins and towns are a thing. There was one I found where it was a guy that basically just had a run of bad luck in his life. He was wanted to start a family, but never really was able to settle down. He went from town to town, and he eventually was caught in a raid and was killed. But his story didn't end there because a local necromancer ransacked the town and rose his body up as the undead. So he's now a minion of the necromancer's army.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have to do that because I love stuff like that. So
yeah, It's a little cumbersome to go through, but once you figure it out, like right here is, I just found, this is the current king of the elves, or one of the elven nations in my town, or in my world. He was born in negative 180, so 180 years before the dwarven calendar. But what's interesting is, I think this is the one. I was looking at my legends earlier when you asked me this. The artifact that he holds. Okay, the Complexity of Seducers, which is a legendary dwarven bone floodgate. Dwarven artifacts are a little weird, okay? It was created in Cleared Glinsand by the dwarf Yundum of Folded Quakes in the year 64. In the year 64, it was also made a family heirloom by the same dwarf. And it stayed there for nearly 200 years until the colony was ransacked by I'm just trying to find what it is. It looks like it's a kobold nation. So they were attacked by a siege, and they were able to break through the defenses and steal this particular artifact. And it was lost for 7 years until it was found in a market by a random elf that's a grand nephew of the Elven King. And it was offered to him as a tribute, which he accepted, and it was made a symbol of the diplomat of the Dwarven or the Elvish Kingdom. This is just one random item in my world.
Nice.
You're going to lose so much time in Legend Viewer when you figure it out.
I probably will. So my idea that I had for games that would make good movies, the first idea that I had was Kerbal Space Program. Obviously, there's no story in that game other than get to space. But my thought would be you create sort of like, not exactly a mockumentary, because it's not, you're not being satirical in it, but you make this movie like a documentary, tracking the early days of Kerbal Space Progress, up with it ending with, in
sort of like newsreels.
Yeah, with it ending in like a real time.
That's actually something I toyed around with at one point.
Yeah, a real time launch to get to like the Mun or Minmus or something, and like that's how it ends, with them succeeding after, because it's Kerbal's weird failures and odd circumstances, but they still managed to make it.
Several crews stuck on the Mun.
Yeah. The other idea I had would be Monster Hunter. There is a story in Monster Hunter, but I'm not focusing on the overall story for any of the games, but really focusing in on the hunts themselves. So you could have either an anthology series nature, or a set of movies, or even like a TV show sort of thing, where that you focus on hunting down some of the large monsters, and you follow like a team of hunters.
I'm sorry. No. I'm going to inject an idea. It's a 2-word idea. Steve Irwin.
Yes, that would be excellent. That would be excellent. And he's tracking down the different monsters and talking about them. Yes. My idea is good. Your idea is better.
I'm sorry. As soon as you started talking about an anthology series with monsters, no, Steve Irwin.
Nice. But those were just the first two that very quickly came to my mind. I liked your idea for survival games. Using
I just thought more of genres more than anything else. I mean, Dwarf Fortress is probably cheating a little bit with the spirit of the question. Because there are stories in the game, but they're not something that the average player would encounter. So that's something a little bit different,
Oh my God.
It's looking at the world history.
Rocket League. All right. You get your typical sports movie with like your underdog character, but
no.
It has to be in Rocket League.
It has to be a sports anime where it becomes more about the team and less about the sport. So the sport is just a background.
That would work too.
That's why I like sports anime. I'm not a huge sports guy, but typically in sports anime, it's not focused on the sport much at all, actually. Now that, really think about it. Well, not think about it, but I knew it wasn't. But even things like Fighting Spirit, which is a boxing anime. Yes, there are full episodes dedicated to particular matches, but in 3 seasons worth of show, I would say less than 10 full episodes are fully about the main character fighting. And a lot of it is the build-up in between and the storylines between.
Yeah. The only other one that I'll bring up is BattleTech. I've talked about this before, but basically, I mean, BattleTech is
that's
space
key.
Game of Thrones. So just focus on ongoing conflicts between the houses and whatnot. I mean, there's lots of stories that exist in the BattleTech universe, but you could come up with so much original content.
Or even just a mercenary group like in the actual game, or in the video game, I should say.
Yeah.
And doing jobs in between the different houses and, treachery and betrayal. Getting caught up in wars that you had no business being in.
Yeah.
So, I think we got a few ideas, right?
Yeah. I think so. That's a good question.
I'm still not sure if I went with the spirit of the question or not, but you'll allow it, right?
Yeah, I'll allow it. It doesn't matter.
Just because I co-opted your idea and made it better.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't think Steve Irwin.
I just didn't. My brain didn't go there.
What does that say about me?
I don't know.
Crikey.
Crikey. But anyways, yes, we shall move on from that to... There's nothing in between, right? You did the thing. Yes. So doobly doo for the discovery queue. We'll bang one of these out real fast and then be done. Or your connection will die before we're done, in which case I will wrap it up solo.
Oh my. Yeah, I'm getting really nothing here. A whole lot of nothing. Oh, hang on. This looks interesting. It's a very mixed review. But hang on, let me bring that over. Scroll down. Card Life, Cardboard Survival. Essentially what Nintendo wants to make the Nintendo Switch, it seems.
But
I mean, it's an interesting looking game. I haven't really seen a game with this aesthetic before, going full on with cardboard. The characters are literally cardboard cutouts. And even the dinosaurs look like, the cardboard models that you put together and with tabs and everything.
Yeah.
It looks like those, which, I applaud them for, just going full on with the aesthetic. Trees getting chopped down and it's a jagged cardboard cutout. So they're definitely putting effort in on the aesthetic front. Making it feel like it's a cardboard world. The question is, where are they failing on this? Because it's a very mixed review. Looks like it's more focused on multiplayer.
Oh, hey, I just had Card Life show up.
Yeah, it looks like it's definitely a multiplayer-focused game, so I can definitely see why people are a bit annoyed. But it looks like... you actually create your character by cutting out cardboard as well.
That's cool.
There's going to be so many ticks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, let's be perfectly honest, but the fact that they're going full on with the theme, I applaud them for that. So you get another one?
What is this? This is
I don't know.
Interesting. I don't really know if I'm want it, but it's certainly different from anything I've ever seen before. Senna Tracer. I'm getting the link right now. It looks like camera operation simulator or some sort of movie. So I don't know. I don't know what this is, but I like it. It looks neat.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at this. Hang on.
I'm just going to read the blurb. Cinetracer is a realistic cinematography simulator. The player operates real-world based cameras, sets up lights, and directs talent actors in stunning next-gen environments. So it's sort of a more, I guess, realistic look in terms of like the tech and things, movie maker sort of game. I like this.
Wow, that's expensive. Did you look at the price tag?
I did now. It'll go on sale eventually. Everything goes on sale eventually.
It's a $90 game. Well, I'm not sure if you could really use the term game for this because it is a simulation sandbox game or sim game. So it's very interesting. It reminds me a bit just the way they're handling of the movies. Be able to create your own movie inside the game.
Yeah.
And just looking at this, it looks like it has some pretty robust movie creation tools. Just a quick peek at the trailers. It's hilarious that your guy flies around in a jetpack to set up everything, though.
Yeah. So I got another one.
Well, I got Mega Man 11. I mean, it's a Mega Man game. I didn't even realize that they were releasing the newer Mega Mans on Steam.
I didn't either, but I'm not a big Mega Man fan, so...
I never really got to play them. I played the Nintendo Entertainment System, but Mega Man just wasn't on my radar. But then again, I didn't really have a lot of options when it came to games, so it may have just not been offered, which is a real possibility.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look that bad. It looks like it's getting reviewed fairly well. It released just a few days ago. And it's a 2D Mega Man game, or 2.5D, 3D graphics.
Yeah.
Very colorful. But yeah, Mega Man, or Mega Man 11. There you go.
Holy shit, is this... Oh, it is. Oh man, this makes me excited. So this game on mine I've got is called Left Alive. And it's a looks like a third-person shooter with mech combat involved. And I was sitting here looking at this, like, the aesthetic to this looks familiar. And I was flipping through the trailers, and the first trailer is like got some history from the game series, and it's set in the Front Mission universe, or the Front Mission.
Terribly familiar with that.
It's a turn. It was initially a turn-based mech combat game, and then they had a couple of games that were more action, almost like hack and slash games, but with mechs. And it looks like this is going to have some ground level stuff. I mean, I would prefer the turn-based, but I love this series. This is one of the only, this is one of the games, the Front Mission series. I go back and play the PlayStation 2, the ones that were on PS2. Mm-hmm. Every couple of years, I'll play through the whole series because I love them so much.
Well, we know where you're being lost for a while.
Yeah, it says this releases March 2019, March 5th, 2019. So, that's not too far off. And it says the game will unlock in 4 months. I guess maybe for people who get maybe early access. Yeah, maybe it's one of those you pre-order it and you can play the game early sort of deals. Don't know. I won't be doing that, but this makes me quite happy.
Well, good thing I don't have the webcam on so I can see that. I got Shortest Trip to Earth, a roguelite survival exploration game with some very heavily inspired by FTL, only looks like a bit more sandboxy, which I don't have a problem with. FTL, after a while, felt like it was more dictated by its random number generator than any other any form of strategy, at least for me, because I wasn't particularly good at it, I guess.
Yeah.
But seeing FTL getting spiritual successors like this, where it's more about exploration and exploration and probably a little bit of survival and more focused on the tactics, I'm definitely down for that. And it looks like there's at least some ship customization and ship building in this, with the individual modules, instead of FTL having, you choose one of two things and that's it.
Fancy.
Yeah, it looks actually good. It looks like there's proper boarding and everything. It looks like the ships are a little bit more, I'm not sure realistic is the proper term here, because, sci-fi, but still.
Yeah.
But I'm impressed.
Well, I'm done with my queue. I only got 2 games out of it, but that's good enough for me. So, how many do you have left?
I'm still only about halfway through. And I got one that I didn't even realize was coming out. So, a quick mention for it, because I know we have at least one fan of this particular genre. Beat Hazard 2 is coming, or is out, I should say. Which, Beat Hazard is a shoot-'em-up game derived from, it's procedurally generated isn't the proper term, but it's derived from the music that you play through it. So particular songs generate particular waves of enemies, and also the power-ups that you receive or at least in the previous version. So if you're a fan of shoot 'em ups with over-the-top flashy graphics and a little bit of rhythm-based gameplay on it as well, because the enemies also came in based on the rhythm of the song, and the tempo of the song also dictated just how fast they were. So through Fire and the Flames, hard mode. Right?
That would be extra hard. To the Fire and Flames. Jesus.
Let's see. That doesn't look very good. I'm skipping through real quick. That doesn't look particularly good either. Last game. Fuck no. No. Ignore. I'll say
Okay.
the title. Super Seducer 2. No, I am not linking to that piece of shit. Fuck that game, and particularly, well, no, I don't want to fuck that guy. That guy just looks like he constantly needs to be hosed down,
Yep. It's like he just takes baths and Jerry curl.
So yeah, I ended up with 4, and 4 that I would actually say are at least decent. Can't believe it suggested to me super. I'm pretty sure I would put the other one on ignore. Well, maybe it's like, well, the first one was shit. Maybe this one's going to be shit as well. But hey, but yeah, that is my list. Hello?
Excellent.
Okay,
I'm still here.
I'm a little I'm a little jittery now because dropping the connection twice.
Yeah, I understand. But no, I'm still here.
Yeah, trust me, I have the modem in the corner of my eye and I'm staring at it. Blink, blink, blink.
Cool. Well, if that's the end of the discovery queue, which means we're on to the portion of the podcast where I go first. Got a couple of new subscribers on the old YouTube. So if you, once again, as I do whenever that happens, if you are podcast listeners, thank you very much for coming over to my YouTube channel. And if you are people who found my channel organically and are actually listening to this episode of the podcast, thank you anyways. Check out
We're sorry.
the backload of the podcast episodes. I'm not sorry. The things that you can find on my YouTube channel, as always, are the drop of the podcast and whatever it is that you and I happen to be recording at the time. And currently, we're still working on Spin Tires. As always, I'm slightly farther behind than you because I forget or things come up and I don't get them set right. But I'm catching up to where we were. We did not get to record Monday night because of connection issues. This time it was
that
my
time
fault.
it was on you.
It's just like we just take turns. So it was my turn last night. It's your turn tonight. We're going to try and record again on Thursday, so I guess that means it'll be my turn to have problems again. But anyways, if you want to see those videos on my YouTube channel, you can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist. If you want to follow me on Twitter, that's at JMA4707, where you can see me tweet about all kinds of things. I posted a very short, contextless tweet that just said, I feel special tonight, and that is related to our Game Key giveaway. So if you saw that the other day, because podcasting time travel is weird, you'll know what that was about. Otherwise, if you want to be friends with me on Steam, you can do so by sending a friend request to jarthur4707 on Steam. I accept all friend requests and love to talk to the lovely people. Had someone prompt me with that sort of refining of the video game movie question yesterday, and I always appreciate that sort of stuff. Thanks for helping generate content for the show. What about you?
And if you wish to know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password for this week is packet loss. Packet loss.
Indeed.
Seemed appropriate, you know?
Very much so. Where can they find you, buddy? And what have you got going on?
Oh, well, if you want to find me over on the YouTubes, you can find me over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage. I'm still only on 2 of my 3 series going on at this time because connection issues have been, as you may be able to tell, I'm a little pissed. And not in the drunk way either. Actually, in the drunk way would probably help right now. But that makes me sleepy. But yeah, I'm only running 2 of my 3 series right now. Spin Tires and episode 70-some of RimWorld. So, yeah, if you want to have a very mature RimWorld series that only has only a little bit of death, actually. That's hardly fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be fair, because the colonies lasted so long, everybody is pairing off. So if I start losing people, things could go downhill very quickly. I have 4 couples in my colony right now out of, I would say 15 people, 10, 15 people. So yeah, losing a person would give a hugely negative debuff to mood and would potentially cause a tantrum spiral. So, hey, there's always the chance for self-destruction. And I need to figure out exactly what I'm going to do with RimWorld because 1.0 is coming out. I'm at the point where I could end the series in about a month of worth of episodes because I'm at that point in the tech tree that I could just research the ship and take off and secure probably my last win because they changed how that works in the beta version after mine. I'm actually, well, by the time, no, it would be next week. I'm 1 beta version behind because the series have been going on for so long. But with the release, I need to figure out, exactly my timing on a restart of the series because I do want to continue playing. I'm still enjoying it. Even though, the game does piss me off at times with all the damn poison ships. But you can find all of that over on Gaming with Caffeine Rage with the Sunday Sampler as well. Assuming that I actually get review keys, I'll try out the game that we got for a giveaway. And most likely do that, and assuming that it records properly. If not, then I'll just talk about it here. Twitch, I didn't get a chance to stream at all last week because as soon as I sat down to stream twice, or start putting stuff together to stream, I should say, my connection went down. And it's a little tough to be able to stream without a connection. So I'm hoping to return to that this week. I'm at least going to try some Dwarf Fortress and also some Night Team. Or at least do my test videos on that. Because that seems to be a good place to, get a little bit of feedback and get a feel for a game. And make a complete fool of myself at the same time. Bonus points, right?
Yep.
And you can also find me make a complete fool of myself over on the Twitter, Gaming with CR. And, well, if you wish to see links to any of the stuff that we talked about, both during the show or our media links, you can find them over on the podcast website, vglpodcast.podbean.com. All the links are there and are very handy if you wish to click them. Which, well, our Podbean site is also gladly supported by our patrons. Patreon.com/VGLpodcast if you wish to join in with our monetary support. Once again, you can contact us, vglpodcast@gmail.com, with your letters, voicemails, gaming-related topics, or, well, just general questions, or just tweet them to us, VGL Podcast, and also your movie quotes, because remember, the giveaway is on. And I believe that's it. So our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod and Doobly Doo. Our Discovery Queue music is by the same artist. His music can be found at incompetech.com. And
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice. Bye now.
See ya.
Haha.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. See you next time.
Bye-bye.